Today's episode of The Dan Cave is brought to you by Catwoman Soul Stealer. While many people think the Joker is Batman's most enduring rival, they'd be incorrect because that distinct honor belongs to Catwoman. So in honor of #1 New York Times bestselling author Sarah J. Maas's thrilling new YA novel Catwoman Soul Stealer, we're gonna run down some of the greatest Catwoman stories of all time. The autobiography of Bruce Wayne. While Batman and Catwoman have always had a will they, won't they thing going, there's at least one universe where the Bat and the Cat found love and actually got married, Earth 2. In this story by Alan Brenner, Joe Staton, and George Freeman, Batman's infected by the Scarecrow's fear toxin, which causes everyone he cares about to seemingly fade away in front of his eyes. Unable to rely on his friends, Batman turned to someone he could trust, or rather someone that he didn't necessarily care about, his longtime enemy, Catwoman. Over the course of their adventure, we see the two move from an uneasy alliance to confiding in one another, falling for each other, and eventually realizing that they're actually perfect for one another. It's kind of like myself and my one true love, spending way too much money on comic books. Selina's Big Score. Anyone who's read Darwin Cook's Parker comics for IDW knows that he was a master of telling a compelling heist story. And Selina's Big Score is not only a great crime comic, but it's one of the best Catwoman stories of all time. Down on her luck, Selina learns of a train carrying $24 million in the Falcone crime family's dirty money. It's a score that had put her back in the big time. The only catch? To steal it, she'll have to team up with her old mentor, Stark. Can either one trust the other? Probably not. I mean, they're both criminals, but that's half the charm in Cook's gorgeously illustrated noir-style story that makes it an absolute must-read for any Cat fan. Now, this book also features one of the single silliest names in all of DC Comics, Slam Bradley. Just say it out loud and just remember how good it feels to laugh. Slam. Come on and slam. Bradley. The Cat File. How many times you've just been minding your own business when, out of nowhere, you're kidnapped by a shadowy government agency and blackmailed into pilfering an ancient relic from a small European country? And to make matters worse, even if you succeeded, the government's just planning on killing you anyway? Well, if you're Catwoman and Chuck Dixon and Jim Ballard's Catwoman The Cat File, the answer is, at least once. Using her wits, wiles, and superior spycraft, Selina must race against time to both commit the crime of her life and outsmart the government stooges holding her hostage, which is something that sounds like it was ripped straight from the headlines, but is in fact 22 years old. Her sister's keeper. Selina Kyle didn't have the easiest upbringing. Though her origins have shifted over the years, they've generally been mired in hardship, and that's what's explored in Mindy Newell's miniseries, Her Sister's Keeper. Serving as a sort of companion piece to Frank Miller's iconic Batman Year One, Her Sister's Keeper examines Selina's past as a sex worker and her sister's life as a nun. This gritty story leans into the darker side of Gotham City stories through its look at sex trafficking, and also it sheds light on how Selina molded herself into the hardened, self-sufficient badass that we know and love, showing us how another DC hero, Ted Grant, aka Wildcat, taught her to fight and protect herself on Gotham's mean streets. But most of all, this gripping story raises an important question. Are Catwoman and her sister wearing costumes to empower themselves or to avoid their real problems? It's one that may well never be answered. Relentless. If you were to ask most people about their favorite Catwoman story of all time, most of them would probably answer Relentless. The 2004 storyline from Ed Brubaker and Cameron Stewart examines the very real cost of what happens when Selina Kyle tries to do some good for her community. Acting as a sort of Robin Hood for Gotham City's East End, Selina uses her ill-gotten gains to do things like building a $28 million community center, only to have it blown to smithereens. Because unfortunately, Selina's actions have put her squarely in the crosshairs of the Black Mask and the rest of Gotham City's underworld. And it's not just Selina who finds herself in harm's way, it's the people who are closest to her, like her protege Holly and her sister. Whatever you do, just make sure you're not eating grapes when you read part 4. That's a small spoiler alert, but just trust me on that one. Only Takes a Night. For everyone still bummed about how the Batman Catwoman wedding of the century shook out, Catwoman number 32's Only Takes a Night shows why that's probably for the best. Over the course of a single evening, Batman and Catwoman spend the night together trying to figure out if they're meant to be soulmates or sworn frenemies. Ed Brubaker, Sean Phillips, and Stefano Gaudiano's story shows Catwoman in a tenuous position, losing control over Gotham's East End, reeling from the death of one of her closest friends, and trying to figure out what her place is in life. While we see the two of them out on a date, we also learn how the people on the periphery of Selina's life are affected by this larger-than-life connection between Catwoman and Batman. No matter what they may want in their heart of hearts, one thing is for certain. These two will always have a powerful, undeniable connection. And those are some of the greatest Catwoman stories of all time. But tell me, what are your favorites? Let me know in the comments below, and be sure to give me a morally gray thumbs up while you're there. Be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell, or else you might miss next week's show about the story of a billionaire turned costumed vigilante who must fight with his greatest villain yet. An undead apocalypse that's meant to serve as a damning indictment of the Vietnam War, race relations, and the changing face of America in the dark night of the living dead. Until next time, keep on digging. Special thanks to Catwoman Soul Stealer for sponsoring today's episode. Written by #1 New York Times bestselling author Sarah J. Maas, Catwoman Soul Stealer is a Catwoman story unlike anything you've seen before. Filled with pulse-pounding suspense, this action-packed origin story introduces us to a new thief on the prowl in Gotham City, Selina Kyle, aka Catwoman. 2 years after escaping Gotham City slums, Selina Kyle transforms herself into a master thief in the making, teaming up with the likes of Poison Ivy and Harley Quinn to wreak havoc all over Gotham while Batman is out of town. But with Batman's protege Batwing, aka Luke Fox, out to make a name for himself as one of Gotham City's protectors, Catwoman finds herself in an unwittingly dangerous game of cat and mouse. And this time, she's the mouse. Catwoman Soul Stealer, available wherever fine books are sold. Let's open up the old mailbag, shall we? Captain Aaron asks, what's your favorite dinosaur? Well, that's a great question, Captain Aaron, and one I've given an awful lot of thought to. Now, it's easy to say something like, oh, the T-Rex, because it's got small arms, or the Velociraptor, because it's small but also has arms. I'm gonna have to go ahead and say the Diplodocus. These long-necked herbivorous doofuses are just so cute that I can't help but love them, and also, a DJ named himself after one of them. Show me DJ T-Rex, I'll show you a DJ I'm not listening to. As someone who is a tall, lanky youth, their elongated forms have always just delighted me and inspired me to no end, except I should probably eat more salad. Well, Diplodocus, either that or maybe the one that just killed Newman in Jurassic Park. Dealer's choice, honestly. But tell me, which dinosaur is your favorite? Let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you guys next time.